Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Living Today. I am hoping that everyone had an amazing Friday. It is April 30th, and we are 4 months into 2021. Who knew? We actually officially made it 4 months in, and I am so excited to be here. You have joined us again for Friday Night Highlights. It's Living Today. And I am your host, Theresa Irons, the CEO and founder of Irons Group LLC. And this is where we inspire and empower female school leaders to find themselves authentically, develop their purpose, leverage their strengths, sharpen their skills through perseverance, passion, and teamwork. And this is where I highlight a servant leader every single Friday night, unless I decide that I need to take a break or something. I don't know. Or we just take a break. That's it. And tonight we are talking to Teresa Royal Brown, my sister, queen of the pivot, master networker herself. Hey, Teresa.
Hey.
I know. So I'm so excited to see you. Haven't seen you since forever.
I know. I miss you.
I know.
Puddin'.
Yes, I'm Puddin'. Yes, listen, nobody else gets to call me that. I'm just going to put that out there. Only Teresa calls me Puddin'.
Yes, only
and
me.
I gladly say, hi, I am Puddin'. Okay. Nobody calls me that except her. And so I am so happy to see you, and I'm so grateful to have you on the show tonight. So how you been, sis?
I've been okay. God is good.
All the time.
All the time. And all the time.
God is good.
God is good. Amen.
So how is it? How is Maryland? You know, I'm missing my Maryland fam.
I know. Today is a little windy. Actually, I'm looking outside now. It is really windy in Maryland and a little chillified.
Chillified. Lord, it's kind of It's kind of hot here in South Florida. I don't know what the summer's going to do to us, but it's feeling a little hotified already.
First of all, don't rub it in. How about that? Because I want to be where you are. Okay.
Come on. Get on the plane if you can. I mean, they're letting people fly now. So
yes.
Get on the plane.
Yes.
Come and visit us. We were born. I mean, Florida's welcoming everybody at this point.
Yeah, Florida. Y'all funny because y'all act like it wasn't no pandemic, but
no talk about it.
Sirs, ma'ams, whoever's listening, we are still in a pandemic. Okay, we need to realize that there are people still getting the Rona. They're getting the Ronification. So
we'll talk about my state, okay?
Yes.
I know it's sunny here. I know it's super busy. Like everyone's out in the sunlight. I think I went by the park today, and there are people in the park walking their dogs. Everybody just doing the doing.
Wow.
Right, there are still people out here that are still getting sick. I know it seems like there's still people getting sick and stuff like that. So we all have to be mindful of that.
Yes, exactly, absolutely.
So I am going to introduce you to the people. So I think you and I met at Charmaine's event at Wife Up Conference, then at Christina's. I was trying to remember which one of the events.
Christina's? It might have been Christina's.
It might have been Christina's event.
I think it was Christina's event. And I love her.
Right?
Shout out our girl, Christina Garrett. We love her.
Yes.
Mama we love her. That is my girl.
What's up, Christina?
Hey, Christina. Hopefully she watches it. She'll be like, wait a minute, y'all shout me out.
I know, right? She probably can't. I don't know if she watching with them children right now. She's probably too busy to be watching, right?
That's my
girl. So I think we met at Mamaton first, and then we were at Wife Up together. I think we were at Wife Up too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've been to a couple conferences, and both those young ladies are like, powerhouses, and we love them. So we want to just shout them out for all the work that they're doing too. So let me introduce you to everybody, because we'll be here all night just chit chatting. Y'all don't know. So let me tell you who Teresa is and why we have her on the show tonight. So Teresa Royal Brown is the chief event producer extraordinaire at Royal Brown Events and master networker at Entrepreneurs and Professional Network, or EPNET, a networking and business building organization. In some circles, she is known as the master networker. They call me the connector, but no, she is the networking master of all time, because she has the ability to connect like-minded and like-hearted people together to build solid business relationships and collective collaboration. She encourages team building through networking events and workshops. In other circles, she's known as the event producer extraordinaire. because she has a gift of creating one-of-a-kind, unique, and memorable experiences. She is good at planning events, y'all. She has a degree in business management from Central Pennsylvania Business College and has had her own event planning and networking organization since 2006. She also started awarding entrepreneurs with the Living Legacy Awards. This is cool. In 2006, where you awarded high-level individuals like Louis Gossett Jr. If you don't know who that is, I don't know what to tell you. Go look it up. Bernadette Stannis, who played Thelma. Good Times. Y'all know that show. George Fraser, Dick Gregory, Ben Crump, Vivica A. Fox, Michael Baisden, and others. Teresa is no stranger to shifting and changing over the years. She's become known the queen of pivoting because of her ability to be flexible with pivoting when necessary, because of her disruption in the events industry due to the global pandemic, because she had no choice but to pivot during this time. She's an author. She has a new book coming out called Keep Calm and Pivot. She's written other books as well, like Not Built to Break. I'm so excited about the new book. Hello. Teresa is also a dynamic speaker in her own right. She's been speaking on a variety of topics over the last 10 years, from planning stellar events, showing speakers how to get booked and paid with event planners, networking correctly to build relationships, sharing her powerful testimony of overcoming a major life challenge, which almost led to the brink of suicide. She recently added several new topics, teaching people on how to pivot to the next level. Listen, y'all. I mean, I could just keep going, but we got an hour. So if you're just joining us, this is Teresa Royal Brown. So before we get into, let's talk about, COVID and let's talk about pre-COVID. What was your life like? 2019, what were you doing, before we had the pandemic? Let's talk a little bit about that before we get into talking about that.
Well, pre-COVID, my life was a little bit less stressful. Well, it was still stressful, but I was moving and shaking, flying around the world, doing events. Had just come back from meeting my forever president, Barack Obama. Life was pretty good. Yeah. And then the pandemic hit. Woo, child. Woo, child. When I say those two words, that means, Lord have mercy. I don't even know what else to say. Then the pandemic hit. But before the pandemic, things were pretty, normal for me as an event planner. I was running around. I was flying here, flying there. And sometimes, I don't tell everybody everything that I do. So I have several clients that I was flying a lot to different destinations, doing events for them, and everything just stopped when the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So you were, you planned big time events. We don't need to get into all of whose events you plan, but we'll talk about that. So pre-COVID, you're planning events. Your life is going great. You meet Barack Obama. I remember when you posted that picture. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And, so 2020 comes around, and let's talk a little bit about wins and learns for 2020. I like to frame conversations that way. So let's talk a little bit about the wins first. What were some big wins for you would say last year? Can you find some in the event planning space?
Well, one big win, and I will say this, believe it or not, I actually had an event last year. I didn't really tell a whole lot of people, but I actually hosted my own live event. I almost taught a class on planning an event during the pandemic, and I thought better of it and didn't do it simply because so many people were still scared and they just did not want to plan events. But I actually had a small event. It was not big, 30 people. In September, I still had my annual Bold, Brave, and Beautiful women's luncheon. And usually I have 200-300 people there, but last year, obviously, I couldn't have that. So we scaled it all the way down to 30 people. It was phenomenal. When I tell you, that was probably one of the best events I've ever planned. The connections, and I think people were just glad to get out the house. Because remember, we were shut down for a couple months. So by September, people were able to get out, move around, and it was just one of the best events ever, to the point where I'm actually, and I haven't made an announcement about this yet, but I'm actually pivoting more in my business. So when things really start opening back up, I think I'm going to start doing more small events. Even though I was always doing small events, but the other side of Teresa is that I do huge events, and people don't know that side of me, because if you're not in that space, you wouldn't know. But those who are in that space, they know I plan huge event, 5,000-10,000 person conferences. And having to pivot last year to a small event like that, I got to tell you, that was really one of the best events ever. And I don't know why. Maybe it was because I was able to talk to everybody in the room, hug everybody to within reason, because we had to do little air hugs. Right. But it was just a different feel. And I'm like, you know what? I do retreats, I do small events, but I really love small events now. I'm starting to really realize this is my joy. This is where I thrive, and I move better in smaller spaces. So that's my big win.
Wow. That's huge.
I planned an event, and I pivoted.
Yeah, to go from 10,000 to 30, or 300 to 30. That's a huge win. That's huge.
Right.
So what would you say was like some big learns for you last year? What were some of the learns that you had?
Am I gonna say them 2 words again? Woo, child. Well, one thing I'm learning is that we need each other to survive. Now, we always knew this, but having been locked down for those couple of months, and we couldn't really go anywhere. I know I did the DoorDash a few times. I didn't go to the grocery store. I didn't drive. I didn't do nothing. I was home in the house. I learned quickly, you need people. You need people. And you just said I'm the queen of networking. And that's very true, because I believe in building those relationships. But what I've really realized is you need to connect with people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Meaning, it's one thing to be on, even right now, we're on a Zoom or a StreamYard, or we're talking via the computer. But what I'm learning is I need people. I'm a live events girl. I learned that quickly. I was starting to do the little live event thing, or not the live event, the virtual event. I was going to start doing that as part of my business. I scrapped that quick. I was like, nope, it's not for me. I can't. That's not what I do. It's not where I live. It's not where I thrive. I need to talk to you. I need to touch you. Even if I can't for real touch you, I need to do a fist bump. I need to see you face to face. That's who I am. So one of the learns I learned is I need people. And it took me a long time to adjust to this virtual world, because I really don't like it. I'm going to just be transparent.
Yes.
And I do Zooms and FaceTimes. I do it like 4 or 5 times a day. I'm on with somebody, and I hate it. I want to get in my car. I want to go to Starbucks. Meet me. Let's go have coffee. I want to go to dinner with somebody. I want to go to lunch. I miss those things. And so that was a hard lesson for me. For somebody who likes to be around people, it's hard not to be around people. It's hard. Now, my introverts, they are loving life. They love this. They're like, yeah, girl, woo woo. They love being behind the computer.
Guilty.
That's not me. I know that's you. That's you, Miss Theresa. You love this. You like, girl, I love this. No. This ain't good for me. I don't like this. So yeah, that's a big. It's been hard. I mean, you don't even understand how hard it is to be around people and you thrive off of that energy, and to not have it is hard.
Yeah, because I do have a number of, for someone who, like, people always ask me this. Okay, Sharice, you're a connector. How are you a connector and an introvert at the same time?
At the same time,
I know it doesn't really make sense, does it? But it's totally natural for me.
It's hard.
But it's hard. But I know for people who get their energy from being around others and wanting to touch and hug and let's go to coffee and do all that. It's been challenging. I do have a couple friends like that, and I totally get it. It's been tough. And so that's a big learn, having to, I know, I'm sorry, sissy.
Yeah. It's so hard. No, I'm so serious. It really is hard.
No.
And it's a get up out of bed every day and fight to do this, to be on virtual spaces. Where it's the opposite for introverts. They love this. This is where they live. But if you don't live here and this is not what you're used to, it is hard for you. It really is.
Yes.
So for me to be able to do as many Zooms as I do and get on as many FaceTimes and Facebook has a little thing that you get on to. It's for me to have to do that. Trust and believe. It's been rough.
Yeah, but I know. I'm sure. I mean, it could get a little. It's a lot of stimulation.
Yeah.
I get it. That's a big learn. And I think all of us, whether you're an introvert, extrovert, however it is, we've all being in contact with another human. We're built to be in contact with people. I believe that. I think we're built to be touching and hugging and being around others. That's natural.
Right. It's natural. Yeah. So this is natural. What we're doing right now, I need to be with you. I need to be in your studio. I need to be like, look, girl, you want me to fly down to Florida? I need to be with you.
Right. Exactly.
It's just,
I know. Don't worry, girl. One of these days, we're going to be doing that exact thing.
We're going to do it.
Yes, it's okay. But that's a huge learn. And I think a lot of people have been, which has caused a lot of, mental stress for a lot of people to not be able to see family and friends and, do all those things. Because I haven't seen my son in like a year at this point. It's been a while. So I'm going to have. Yeah. So it's to kind of deal with that. So I totally hear you on that one. I know he doesn't like this. He doesn't really like the virtual thing either. So he's like, Mom, it's hard. It's a hard thing for me to do every day. And not being able to go to networking events. That's another thing, or host them. Because that's what we did. We did a lot of networking events. So my poor little EPNET organization has kind of been on pause because that's really what we do. We meet each other face to face. Now, don't get me wrong. We tried to do a couple of, not even tried. We did do a couple of virtual, and it just didn't work. I know some people are doing it and they're fine, but for us, you got to know where you flow. Yeah. And if you don't flow that way, then don't do it. Don't do it because everybody else is doing it. And there's plenty of people doing it and they're killing it. And that's on them. And God bless them. You do you. But for Teresa, no. Yeah, it didn't work. And I like that you said that you have to know where you flow. So if you're listening and you're in the event planning space or the tourism or whatever space you're in, knowing where you flow and what works for you is very important. You can't do what everyone else is doing. And I think that's key. You have to kind of know what works for you and in your area, in your strength zone. So you've made a lot of pivots. And I always ask this question about pivoting. That's the word that everyone was using. We've all been using it. You use it so much, you're writing a whole book about. You wrote a whole book about. So, what are the pivots that you had to make in your business to keep your business not just afloat, but at still sustainable, and you're still here doing in your business right now? What are some things that you've had to do?
Well, one thing, I've had to cancel every event that I had. So I lost 22 clients last year, which sounds like a lot until you get with the person and they lost 75 clients, or the next person's lost 100 clients. So my little 22 clients, I was screaming and kicking about that. Then I met this lady, she lost 75. I was like, okay, God, I see what you just did there. So that was the first pivot. I had to cancel everything. So the first couple of months of the pandemic was spent canceling. I mean, I was in front of my computer on the phone with hotels, venues, canceling. And that takes a lot of time because these are contracts that people have. Just like you say, I want to do an event at Caesar's Palace. You got to write a contract with them. You just can't roll up in there and do an event. There's a lot of behind the scene administrative paperwork that people don't get. They just think event planning is so luxurious and fun, and there's work. It's a lot of work that needs to be done. So the first thing I had to do was cancel everything. And so that was the first pivot. Second thing I canceled stuff from last year to this year. And as we see, we're still in this pandemic, right? So then I had to do it all over again. So I had to cancel everything from last year that was scheduled for this year and now move it to next year. Or cancel it all together. So that's been a lot of pivoting. That's what you call a pivot within a pivot. So we pivoted, then we had to pivot again. And so that was the first thing. So what I just said right there is obviously there was no events that could really be happening over the last 2 years. So all of 20, no events, pretty much all of 2021. I'm not really going to be having any events for my clients. So let me preface that. Teresa is going to have a few little small events for herself and do a few little small things for me, but that's not really going to pay any real bills. That's just me doing a couple of small events because I want to do them. So obviously events are dead to a point. And so I had to say, okay, you know what? I can't do events. What other gifts and talents do I have? And I think that's the thing that a lot of people did not stop to do. And I'm going to share something that I haven't really talked about a lot, but the first couple of months of this pandemic, I got word that several event planners had killed themselves. And I want that to sink in for everybody. I haven't talked about that much, but you know why? Because they felt like they didn't have anything else that they could do.
My God.
And I just believed what the Bible said. The Bible says your gifts will make room for you. Right? So that means you got more than one gift. You got probably, I think everybody has at least 5 or 6 things that God has gifted them to do. In my case, I'm very multifaceted. I've known that since I was young, and I've always had several things going. So I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm an event planner. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not just Teresa, the event planner.
No.
And over the years, it used to drive me crazy. I'm like, I just want to do one thing. And now I'm like, thank you, Lord Jesus, that I can do multiple things. You see how you be mad at stuff? And then you be like, Lord, thank you, hallelujah, that I am that way. So I was able to pivot. There's my word. And I want the record to reflect. I use that word pivot. I was the first person to use that word pivot in the DMV. I want everybody to know it. I'm going to share the post. I used that word April 1st of 2020. I said, everybody, we got to pivot. Next thing I know, everybody's starting to say, you got to pivot.
Okay. I know it became like a thing. I remember you posting, and then I was like, pivot.
And everybody, I'm telling you, that's real talk, because I really was the first person to say it. And of course, the word's been around, but people start realizing you got to pivot. You cannot stay where you are. You got to be like, okay, I can't go this way. I got to go this way. You got to just shift, and you got to do it quickly. So I pivoted into the first pivot. Like I said, I was going to do virtual events. So I taught a class on virtual events. Matter of fact, it just came up in my memories, sold out. I taught other event planners and people who did events how to get on different virtual platforms. So I was thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do for a while. Hated it. I did that class one time. I actually have people right now ask me to do it again. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do it again. Because it's not what it wasn't a passion. I didn't want to do it. I just did not like to do it. Don't get me wrong. Class went well. Everything was cool. But like I say, you got to go where you flow. I wasn't flowing. It just didn't flow good for me. So I pivoted within my pivot. So that was my first pivot within a pivot. I'm like, okay, well, I can't do virtual. Maybe I'll partner with someone who does virtual. So believe it or not, I've actually had a couple people who asked me to plan virtual events. I knew that wasn't my gift. I knew that's not where I flowed. So I partnered with another person. This is another lesson I learned. We got to collaborate. I've said it for years, but because of this pandemic, we really got to do it. And so I reached out to a sister, didn't know her. She's in a different state, and we collaborated. And I've actually kicked her a couple pieces of business because that's not what I do. And so people will call me, I'll partner with her. She will get it done, and we split profits or what have you, work it out. So that's what you got to do. So I've done a few of those. These are all ways I had to pivot my business to stay relevant and stay in the game, but knowing that I really couldn't be in the game because all around the country, you really can't have events. except for in Florida. Anyway, you know, I had to throw that in there.
Wow.
You know, I had to throw it in there. You know, I had to throw it in there.
You did throw it in there.
So after that, I said, okay, Teresa, what else can you do? And I have a gift for writing. I have written several books before. I've actually helped other authors write their books. I don't throw it out there all the time because, again, I am multifaceted. And I do believe you got to be known for one thing. And then you can tell people other things that you do. But if you're known for 50 things, then people don't know what to know you as. Most people, if they look at me, they say Teresa's an event planner or she's a networker. That's it. Those are the two things that they know me as. Books and all that other stuff, they don't know me as that, even though that is a big part of what I do. So I pivoted undercover. I know I say that a lot. Sometimes you got to pivot undercover. I mentioned that in the book as well. And so I was pivoting undercover, writing my book. So I was actually working on my book last year. I wasn't exactly sure what direction I wanted to go with that book. And I just clearly heard God say, you need to do this book, because I was working on another book. So here I go again, pivoting within a pivot. So I was working on I have 4 other books on the shelf that I said, okay, I'm going to start working on those 4 books. I'm gonna get them done. He said, put them back on the shelf and work on this book. So that's why I started working on Keep Calm and Pivot. And in the process of writing Keep Calm and Pivot, I had to pivot in the writing because I was going in one direction and it was a lot. When I tell you this book would have been like 500 pages, I had like 25 chapters.
Wow.
It was crazy. And I was like, Teresa, stop. Whoa, stop. Ain't nobody gonna read all that. I had to say it out loud. Nobody is gonna read all of that.
This is not War and Peace, Teresa.
Okay, they're not gonna do it. So I had to pivot within my pivot. Okay, again.
Yeah.
So my book, Keep Calm and Pivot, should have been done. The reason it's almost done now, but the reason hasn't been done, it should have been done in January, to be honest with you. But the reason it wasn't done is because I had to change my whole strategy, throw it out and scale it down. Mm-hmm. And trying to figure out what to put in and what to take out. That took a minute. It took some time, but I'm glad I did it that way, because I'm telling you, people would have looked at that book. They would be like, okay, this is a great book, but this is too much. I'm not reading all this. It's too much.
You can barely get somebody to read like a 1-sentence blurb on one. Girl.
That part. So yeah. So anyway, but yes, the book is almost done and it should be out in like the next 2 weeks. But
that's awesome.
So yeah, so you see how I had to pivot a couple of times within my pivot. And I just posted something today and I said, y'all ain't gonna believe this. I'm about to pivot again.
I saw that.
So so don't get me wrong. I'm still doing the book. I'm still doing this other stuff. But within this pivot, there's another opportunity that just dropped in my lap. And so I'm gonna be pivoting again. And so this is going to be a constant with me throughout the rest of this year, because again, events are pretty much going to be dead until 2022. Now, I know some people are saying, no, that's not true. People having events, they're having small events. Remember, you can't have so many people gather in certain states. Now, I know Vegas is about to open up, I think in June. Yeah. There's a few other people about to open up, but it takes time to plan an event. It takes time. You got to get contracts straight. You got to, you got to pick the hotel. All that takes time. Nobody hasn't done anything because you couldn't do it. So yes, I will probably start that process again, but to actually have the actual event, it won't be till next year, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're the bigger events. And I think you mentioned that already, talking about going to the smaller compared to your larger events that you used to have.
Exactly.
That's going to take some time probably to get back to the larger events and stuff.
Right.
Like that. Because even I think I saw something earlier this week. I know the Olympics are supposed to start, and there's some questions about that right now. They're kind of not sure what's going to happen, if it's going to happen, isn't it? They're kind of, they're unsure about that. So, and because that's a large event,
it's huge.
Like that. It's huge.
I don't think I would want to be around that many people. I'm still wary about that. Even if you got your mask on, but that's a lot of people, and you figure all people breathing, and that's just too much. And everybody's not gonna wear it. Everybody ain't gonna wear it. They're not. So that you got to be mindful of that. And remember, it's in the air. So it's in the air. You got all those people together. So people got, even if you've been vaccinated, you still got to be careful with that many people together. And, so that's why I'm saying real deal events will not come back until next year. So that's how I've been able to kind of pivot and pivot and pivot. And so this is why I'm going to keep saying that word, because unfortunately, especially in my industry, not just me, the cruise industry, I heard that they're supposedly coming back, but are they coming back? I mean, are they coming back in July? And if they come back in July, are you taking a cruise? I'm not taking a cruise. I'm not going to be on no cruise ship probably for another 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have I've taught you're that's why I have you on here, because you have the insight. You kind of you're in that environment. So people that are in that environment, you see it more than people that aren't, right? You're not traveling, I'm not in that space. So it's harder if you're the consumer, you have to kind of go by whatever is put out, right? By the industry, right? So as a consumer, you're listening to what the industry says, and you kind of go with what is being told to you. So you're like, is it true? Isn't it? Maybe, should I? Can I? So it's always, I'm kind of like, wait and see. And just
I think everybody.
Is it going to work? Are we doing this? I don't know. So because I know even with our just thinking about it, you're saying for you had to go to smaller events because you've done large events, and then now you're doing smaller ones. So, I know a lot of people who are having to rethink what they've done before. You can't do stuff the same way that you used to do it for right now anyway.
Exactly. Probably for at least, I'd say at least to the end of the year. I mean, don't get me wrong. People are going to do what they want to do, but to be safe and, for people to feel comfortable, I think we got to slow walk it and just do things a little bit differently until, we get the all clear that everything is good to go. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to still ask you though, how did you even, before we get, I have to make sure I ask you this. How did you get into event planning anyway? Like, I have to ask you, because I just want to know.
You know what? Somebody just asked me this question a couple of weeks ago, and I have to say I fell into event planning. I didn't wake up one day and say, "Oh, I want to be an event planner." That is not. Matter of fact, I didn't even know this was a profession. To be honest with you, when I went to college, I got out of school and I said I wanted to be a secretary. I know, go to college and you want to be a secretary, really? But it wasn't so much being a secretary. It was being in an office. I'm like, I want to be in an office. And then you just figure you can work your way up and do other things, which most people are able to do. So when I got out of school, I actually was in Pennsylvania. A lot of people don't know this, but I lived in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for 8 years. And when I got out of school, I applied to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Pennsylvania. And one of the vice presidents, he was looking for a administrative assistant. And I jumped at it. I'm like, yes. And he took a chance on me. He really, really did. He took a chance on me. And he's like, you know what? You're fresh out of school, but I'm going to take a chance on you. And I worked my butt off for that man. I worked for him for 5 years. He's still a good friend to this day. And the job was not what you think it would be. So I'm thinking I'm going to be typing and filing, doing all that. I did a little teeny tiny bit of that. But you know what I was doing? I was planning meetings. I was planning events. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This job is not administrative assistant. This is an event planning job. And sure enough, that's what I was doing. I probably planned about 60, 70 meetings for this man.
Wow.
Per year. It was a lot of meetings. And so like the more I planned, the more I'm like, okay, I'm really good at this. And then I got nominated to be the Activities Association president for all the employees. Don't ask me how, but I did. And that was all that they did was plan trips, bus trips, events. I planned trips to NASCAR races and shopping trips and trips to Florida. I mean, I did all kinds of trips. And so then I ended up getting married to my ex-husband, and he wanted to move back down to Maryland. He was from Virginia. And then of course I was from DC. So we decided to move back down. And the job I got when I came back down was planning events. basically. I was actually a office manager, but that's really what my job was, planning events. So I fell into it. And then after that, I just started looking for event planning jobs. I didn't look for administrative assistant jobs per se. I made sure it had some component of event planning to it. And so that's how I fell into it. But yeah, not a glamorous story, because I know people ask me like, how did you do this? I'm like, no, trust me, I didn't go to school for it. I literally fell into it and realized that I had a knack for it. And you know how you walk into an event. And so sometimes people think when I come to their event that I'm taking their event apart and you should do this, you should do that. And I'm really not that way. I have to tell people that all the time. When I come to somebody else's event, I'm there to enjoy myself. I don't want to think about tablecloths or food. I want to come and just chill out and just dance and have a good time and be at your event. Period. Yeah. Period. Yeah. That's all I do. But when it's mine, that's when it's my stuff, I walk into a room and I'm like, okay, I want to put that chair there. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I just have a knack for it.
I think that's so cool, though. It's not people think. I always like to ask that question because of why you choose the path you choose and how you get into it. Because sometimes we think that it's because, you have this intentional direction and you just, this is how I planned it and I just did it just so. No.
I wish that was the way.
No, that's not. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier about, your gifts making room for you. And sometimes when you had one agenda, I'm going to be a secretary, administrative assistant, but that's not what the job entails. So all those skills that you learned doing that is what led you to now, to acquire all those skills. So thank you, sir, that hired Teresa Royal Brown.
Yes. And you know what? Let me just say this real quick. This is going to be kind of along the lines. I'm always of the belief that you should mentor people. We should all be no pun intended, we should all be a servant leader and mentor someone. Take that time and just say, you know what, I'm going to take a young person under my wing and mentor them. And I say that because in my last job as the director of events for an association, I had a young man. He was 16 years old and he was assigned to me to be my protege. Now that boy wasn't thinking about being an event planner. Had nothing to do with his agenda. He wanted to grow up to be a lawyer. He wanted to be a lawyer. So, but he got thrown into this association and we planned events for lawyers. So that's why he was in it. But it's so interesting. Years later, he's now a vice president at a lobbying firm. I believe he is considered a lawyer, but I saw him not too long ago and he said to me, I want to thank you for the things that you instilled in me, because even though it had nothing to do with being a lobbyist or being a lawyer, getting up early in the morning and putting out signs for events or being organized. And he said, you showed me how to put books together for events. He's like, believe it or not, I'm still using those skills to this day. Do you know what that did to me? I almost started boohooing and crying from that. I had to turn away. I'm like, yeah, look, I got to go somewhere. I'm going to be right back. Because that thing touched me so deep. Because you think that you're teaching somebody something and they're not listening to you. Because he was a young boy. He wasn't paying attention to me, but he was paying attention to me. Yeah. You see what I mean? And so here he is now doing big things. He's doing well. And he actually believed in me enough to still use the stuff that I taught him. Does that make sense? That's just so crazy. That's
powerful because your impact, you don't realize the impact you have on someone until after.
Exactly. Until after.
And then, and that's why I do this show. It's about servant leadership. And I'll say it all the time, every day. Sometimes I think people probably get tired of hearing me say it, but I have to say it. And it's just the facts. You have to serve. If you have a gift or talent, whether it's in your time, your treasure with your word, your whatever, however you decide to do it and however you show up, you have to serve other people. Period.
Amen.
And it's not about what you may hear it today, or the person may thank you like the young man did right then, or you may have the reward of having someone come back and say thank you, and you may not. But at the end of the day, you should still, that's really what you're here to do. and you definitely have your Entrepreneurs and Professionals Network, which is EPNET. I love that. You're always on. You come on Facebook and you give these. I love the 100-day thing that you do. You add value. You give all this stuff and all that. And I know that you are also on the chair on the CDBAC Committee on Diversity and Inclusion. Why is it so important for you to participate in these kind of activities and serve your community in this way? Because you could be doing so many things. I mean, your business, you have all this stuff going on in your business. Why is it so important for you to still give back, even while you're dealing with all the things going on with your business right now?
Yeah, and I'm going to say something that I'm sure everybody has heard, but to whom much is given, much is required. I just believe that God is not going to keep blessing you if you don't reach back and help somebody else. I mean, that's just my belief. That's something my grandmother used to always say. Never be too big that you can't help somebody, because you're going to need some help sometime too. I was like, wow, amen. So I'm always of the belief that we got to serve. We have to give our gifts and talents sometimes. Now, I know sometimes people say, oh, well, you're not supposed to give everything away. And I get that. And sometimes I probably have given away probably too much. But I always believe that God gives it back to you another way. And it's never the way that you gave it. Ever, 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 ever. You might give somebody $100 and then somebody might give you a brand new car. You see what I'm saying? You're like, how I get that car? But you don't know. It's because you sold that $100. So you just have to be a servant. You have to have a servant's heart. I just believe that.
That is true. And you never know, because the way God shows up, he shows up way different than how you think he's going to show up always.
Okay. You be like, God, do it the same way. You're like, do it the same way. He's like, no, I'm going to do it another way. Okay. So that's how he does it. And, so that's why I do the things that I do. And I do stuff that I never tell people about. There'll be people who say, Teresa, why don't you tell people that you did this? Like, I'll go and go to a shelter and just help out, stuff like that. And you just don't broadcast. You just don't tell anybody. You just do, or just take clothes and just give them away. Like, hey, here, nice suits, shoes, bags that you could get money for. Nope. I'm going to give it to a sister who's down on her luck and she needs a nice suit, but she can't afford it. That's the kind of stuff that we got to do. We got to give. Then you get. I believe that. Give 4 times. Give. Just be like, you know what? I'm going to just pick up the phone and I'm going to just encourage somebody. I'm just going to call somebody and just encourage them. And during the course of that conversation, they might say, hey, I have a business question for you. Then you give of the knowledge that you have, because somebody did that for you. You got to have a servant's heart.
That's amazing. I love it. And if you're just joining us, we're talking to Teresa Royal Brown. And if you're catching this on the replay, watch the whole episode. So I'm excited to ask you this. So I know that one of someone who's very, very important to you in your life was your dad. And you told me that's one of the biggest personal achievement that you have, because you had the honor of, taking care of your father and, serving him and all of that. So what does it mean to you? I think the anniversary was the other day. You posted like a picture about that, and you've talked about that before. Like, why is that so important to you, to like honor your dad all the time and just remember that, and, just share with me that.
I get asked that question a lot, because sometimes it feels like, or seems like, I'm favoring my father over my mother. And that's not the case. Unfortunately, my mother, she dropped dead when she was 60 years old. To this day, we don't know what happened. She just dropped dead. And the shock of her death, it just affected me so much that it made me grow closer to my father. So he was the only parent I had for like before he died, for 14 years before he died. And so I would just, shower all the love that I had for her on him, because he was the only parent I had. And unfortunately, in 2011, my father had a stroke. In Charlotte, in New York, we weren't even here. And we called him and we could just tell something was wrong. But long story short, he did have a stroke. And we couldn't care for him probably the first maybe 6 to 8 months after the stroke. So I don't know if you've known anybody who's had a stroke. Depending on the severity of it, you can't care for that person. That person has to go to rehab. They have to relearn things. That it's just traumatic. So he was in and out of different rehabs and group homes for about maybe, I'd say about 8 months. And then Charles and I decided, hey, you know what? We're going to move him in with us because there was no way he could take care of himself. Was it a sacrifice? Absolutely. I was a newlywed when we moved my father in with us. Did I lose a lot of business? Absolutely. I had to cut my business. I'm pretty much in half. Some clients I had to give to other planners. This is stuff that I haven't even really shared with people, but I actually had to pretty much almost give up my business to a point because you can't, it's almost impossible to do both. Yeah. Because he needed pretty much round the clock care. And so that's what I did pretty much for about 7 years. I took care of my father, and I give a lot of kudos to my husband too. I cannot not give him props because there's no way I could have done it by myself. And so both of us, we cared for my father for 7 years. Was it a huge taxing on my marriage? Absolutely. But the Bible says to honor your parents that your days may be long on this earth. And every time I would start feeling like, oh my God, why isn't anybody helping me? Because I had 2 brothers, 2 sisters. That I have other siblings, and that old saying is always true. It's always one child. It's always one child that's going to be the one that steps up and takes care of that parent if something happens. It's the truth. I'm telling you, it's the truth. So I was really the only child next to Charles, because Charles was, considered my father, his father, that took care of him. And it just, believe it or not, some days when I would make him dinner and I would hear him eating and he would just be like eating it up, I'd be like, it actually did something to me. Like, wow, I'm doing something for my father and he's appreciating it. Even sometimes he might not have said thank you. Most of the times he did, but sometimes he might not have said thanks. But I could tell that when I got that clean plate back, okay, he liked it. So that little stuff like that gave me joy to know that because of me, that man had 7 more years, because they were saying my father was going to die in 2011. And I said, no, he will not. He will not die. He will live. And just, I believe my faith kept that man on this earth 7 more years when he should have been dead. They said he was going to die, but I'm like, you coming up out of this hospital, and I will go and speak life over his body. I would speak life over him. Even when he came and lived with us and he was speaking negative, I would make him say, I am blessed and highly favored of the Lord. And I really believe that just me doing that little stuff helped that man stay on this earth a little bit longer. So sometimes I doubt myself, like, did I do enough? Oh, and I hope I don't cry. Did I do everything I could to keep him on this earth? And then I will always hear that still small voice say, yes, you did. You did. You were a good daughter. You did what you were supposed to do. Do not doubt yourself. But I still do sometimes, because it's like, he should still be here. He should still be alive. It's like, Teresa, God said, now I gave you 7 more years. Now you being greedy. Okay. So that gives me a little bit of peace, that I know that he's doing okay. He's running around on them streets of gold, and he ain't thinking about us, and we will see him again.
Not at all. That's awesome. And, sometimes I wanted to ask you that because I know there are a lot of people out there who've lost loved ones recently, who are maybe taking care of a loved one. And sometimes you have to pull on everything that you have within yourself to get through.
Oh yeah. It's hard.
And it's tough. And I know that you have had sometimes we think the thing that's the worst possible thing at that moment. And no matter how long it is, you always feel a sense of that loss because that's your loved one.
Oh yeah.
And, it's that thing that you experience that you can utilize to help build your strength throughout. When you're going through something else, you can kind of pull back on that thing. Like you said, you kind of go in your head and you're like, wait, did I do enough? And God is always reminding you, yes, you did. So
Yes, you did.
you did. So this is the part of the show where I always like to bring everyone's attention as to why I brought you onto the show. So if you're just joining us, I'm interviewing Teresa Royal Brown for tonight's Servant Leader Highlight. And every single week, I highlight a servant leader because we believe that servant leadership is the highest quality of a leader. If you're going to lead, you need to serve, and you need to do it with humility, give back to others. And the servant leaders that we highlight on the show are people who are self-aware, active listeners, compassionate, visionaries, intuitive, healers. They look at the whole person. They're community builders. They are good stewards. They're committed to others' growth, and they are persuasive. And my sister, Teresa, is a community builder. She's a good steward, and she's committed to the growth of others. As you can see, she talks, and I'm so grateful to be able to honor you tonight. We want you to know that we see you, we love you, we value you, and we thank you for all that you do in your community. We thank you for, not even in spite of all the things going on in your own personal business, you're still finding time to pour into others, pour into other entrepreneurs, even though you're not virtual event planning may not be for you, but you still are helping others, collaborating with others, forming partnerships, and still trying to work and do what you're called to do and still serve others in other capacities. So we want to say thank you. And this is your opportunity to take a bow, my sister.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. It's always nice to be recognized. That's why I like to recognize others as well. But I'm humbled and I'm honored that you have recognized me tonight. I appreciate that.
You are welcome. So before we go, I know that there are going to be people that are entrepreneurs on here, people that are in your industry, maybe people that are taking care of a parent or have lost a family member. You actually mentioned people that have committed, suicide. There was a lot in our conversation tonight. So I always like to ask my guests to leave an iron sharpening thought or some words of encouragement. So, that I'm giving you the floor to do that now, to kind of share with our audience some words of encouragement before we go off.
Well, I appreciate you one more time. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me on. I can't believe it's been an hour. Has it been an hour? Oh my God.
I know.
Well, so I think my biggest word of encouragement is don't give up. The pivot that we've experienced with this pandemic was not a setback. It was a setup for our comeback. We are going to come back stronger. And I just believe that I like to look at this as a reset. This was a time that God just needed us all to just slow the heck down and just reset. And if you think about it, we all kind of did. Even the earth, the air got cleaner. We couldn't have really any planes flying. There was a few planes, but not a lot. Things just got a little bit better for a few months. Why? Because we had to reset. And I don't think we would have ever been able to reset had we not gone through what we did. So my advice to everybody is keep going, keep shining, keep pivoting.
Yes, I love it. That is awesome. In typical Teresa fashion, reset.
That's all I got to say about that.
Listen, and that is all we're going to say about it for the rest of the evening. So guys, listen, if you are watching this on the replay or you're just watching us live now, thank you so much for being here. Teresa, congratulations on being this week's Servant Leader Highlight. We definitely love you and appreciate you here. Your pudding loves you.
Yes. I know you love me, Pudding. I love you too, Pudding. Thank you so much.
Right, that's right. So we just want to tell you guys, thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Living Today show, and this is our Servant Leader Highlight for the week, Teresa Royal Brown. So we will be back hopefully next Friday. If we're not, I will let you know. Okay, so we're entering the Mother's Day month, y'all. It's about to be May, I think. God, we're about to be. It's in May, right? We're in May. Tomorrow's May 1st. So I don't know where the time is going, but listen, it's not waiting for anybody. So listen, if you're not using your time, talent, treasure, and or your words to help and or add value to other people, get to it, people. Let's go. Okay, so there are people out here waiting for you to pursue your dream, live your dream, and to do some stuff. So if you know a servant leader that I need to highlight, reach out to me. Send me a message in my message box so that I can do just that. I love highlighting people. So have an amazing and blessed weekend. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And thank you so much, Teresa, for being here.
Thank you, my dear. Talk to you soon.
All right, will do. Have a good night, everybody.